So, okay, one thing to think about when you're stretching, like you get up from your chair and you start to stretch, is that you're tight. So you don't want to go into like the best, side twist ever that you've ever done and like try to like click something and stuff, because you'll probably strain yourself because you're not warmed up and you've been sitting in tight. So when you get up, like just gentle stretches are the best thing to do when you've been sitting. And I like how you just did like a side bend. Like it's good to just listen to your body and what it needs. So you can do that. You can like bring your arms up. You breathe in as you extend up through your fingers. And then as you exhale, you bend towards one side, let's say the right. And then you breathe in and you just gently push into your left foot and come up straight. So you're breathing in and out a little bit here. And then the next time you exhale, you bend over to the opposite side and just allow that side bend there and the opposite side. And then inhale to come back up. Yeah, and another thing, you could like do some arm circles. I mean, it's like really.
And this is how many times a day? Just whenever you feel like?
I have seen suggestions that like every hour you can do like one sort of stretch or one breathing exercise just to break up the sitting and to release tension that tends to build up when we're just like sedentary and working and constricting our spine. So yeah, and we're gonna do later, we'll do a little bit soft, gentle neck exercise and maybe like a spine twist. But you could totally stand while I'm talking to you now if you want. One of the suggestions I'm going to talk about is actually standing during presentations, or you can sit, or you can go back and forth in the spirit of what I'm talking about. So that's an improvement over last time. Okay, so this is just basically showing you that according to this model of evolution, we started kind of like close to the ground, and then we were hunting and gathering and doing all this outdoor activity. We're strong, and now we are sitting and we're creating that kyphotic posture again. So cartoons say it all. Okay, so what does the research show? There's actually studies about health risks of sitting all day. Yeah, it raises risk of breast cancer. 6 hours a day, 30% more to die by the end of this 13-year study, and for men, it was 18% more. And that's breast cancer and colon cancer were like primary. Hey guys, we just started, so I'm just, this is awesome. Thank you so much. This is so good. The more the merrier.
No.
We're not taking notes, we're just like chilling. It's okay.
Oh, no, this isn't for that. This is because she has nobody here and it's ergonomics.
It's just about not sitting all day. It's like a 25-minute thing.
I have no other time to eat my lunch today.
Okay, so if you need to eat lunch, you can.
Okay, I'm gonna.
Yeah.
Yes, you can. I just thought to bring people over.
Right.
No,
We're gonna.
Thank you, I
Alright.
appreciate it, but thank you.
Okay. All right.
Okay, so you guys can like take a seat at a table.
Or stand.
Or stand, because we're taking standing breaks. All right, so just talking about the health risks of sitting all day, we just said that the American Cancer Society showed a study that particularly breast and colon cancer go up, and other cancers also do when you sit more during the day. There's other health risks including cancer, we said, obesity, type 2 diabetes, heart disease, and premature death. And then certain biomarkers, so triglycerides go up, total cholesterol goes up, good cholesterol goes down, blood sugar raises associated with higher blood sugar, higher blood pressure, and a higher appetite hormone, leptin, so you're more likely to eat. Okay, so this is like a cool chart that goes through that activity. You're sitting, there's electrical activity in your legs, just through your muscles that works when you're standing or walking that's not going on when you're sitting. So that's going to shut off. The amount of calories that you're burning drops to 1 calorie per minute. Enzymes that help break down fat, that activity goes down 90%. Good cholesterol goes down, and the effectiveness of insulin drops 24%. And so the risk of diabetes rises. And then there's a nice stat there that people with sitting jobs have twice the rate of heart disease as those with standing jobs. So it's not that standing all day has like perfect, is perfect either, but at least you're not creating these risks associated with sitting all day. So just more about this enzyme. It takes fat and cholesterol from the blood and burns it into energy and converts bad cholesterol to good cholesterol. So that enzyme is dropping 90% in its activity by sitting. Yeah. And the good cholesterol is 20% decrease. We mentioned cancer. Then there's something else that fights off infection, lymph. So the lymph system, you need to rhythmically contract your muscles for lymph to go through your body. And obviously when you're sitting, you're not doing that as much. So there's less draining of waste, therefore, of waste materials that are made by infections. So this is really interesting. So you would say like, okay, if you're exercising, an hour or 2 hours a day, you're running on a treadmill for an hour and a half, 90 minutes every day, that should protect you from all these chronic diseases, right? But if the rest of the time, for the 22 hours, if the rest of the time you are sitting or you have a sedentary like 9-to-5 job, you're still going to increase these health risks that we mentioned, even if you're running an hour or two a day. So there's a separate risk associated with sedentary behavior aside from if you're physically active or exercising regularly. And so now we're going to go into a little bit of the anatomy. So what happens is, the discs in your back, sitting in a right angle is an aberration of your natural body positioning. It forces the sacrum, which is the bottom of your spine, like the triangle on the bottom, out of its natural tilting position, and ligaments are getting overstretched, and it's compressing the discs. And I have a few pictures that are going to show the spinal alignment and the discs and how sitting is bad for them. And it basically messes up our alignment. Too much sitting also causes the back muscles to shorten and stiffen and weaken. And one of the sources said that the most common reason for chronic lower back pain is a low level of physical activity. Okay, so this is a picture of the spine. Your natural curve has this lordosis, which is like a concave curve inward, and that when you're sitting at a right angle, it flattens it. So you have less of that lordotic curve over here. And then that causes uneven pressure on the discs, on your vertebral discs. So other muscles that get weakened are your ab muscles when you're sitting and your glutes. Also the lower back erector spinae muscles. And this causes an unnatural anterior tilt, which is this, like kind of sticking your butt out, of the pelvis, which puts extra pressure on the spine vertebrae and lead to lower back pain. So that's just some of the anatomy behind it. So we're not designed to sit in chairs, and actually in cultures that they're not constantly sitting in chairs, you see that there's a lower rate of having to take pills and surgeries and things like that. So, okay, this is all kind of like scary and not such good news, so now what can we do about it? So if you take a break from sitting for just a few minutes of light exercise, you can lower the risk of cancer and the other risks that are associated with sitting. There's a study that 1 to 2 minute breaks was associated with smaller waists, less insulin resistance, and lower levels of inflammation, which are all risk factors for cancer. And then the American College of Sports and Medicine recommends that for every hour you sit per day, you should stretch for 2 minutes. And so that would mean that 8-hour day, you're going to stretch for 16 minutes a day. And we were mentioning before, like it can be like throughout the day. It's not like you usually have like a 16-minute period at like 5 to 5:16. And now these are recommendations from the American Institute for Cancer Research. And this is about not stretching in particular, but just getting up and decreasing the sitting time. So some ideas that are just food for thought, and I have them to hand out later. You can set a timer on your computer every hour just to remind you to take a step away from your desk. You can go to a coworker instead of emailing them, and that's obviously going to be also associated with like the type of communication you're having. So certain things are better on email and certain things are better in person. So you obviously have to make that judgment call. Standing up and walking around during a phone call or a meeting, again, like meetings has to be professional, like something that they're anticipating is allowable for you. You're not just going to do it if it's going to be disruptive. And you can also keep light hand weights in your office to use while you're reading an email or talking on the phone. Now this also, just be careful, because obviously anytime you're lifting any sort of weight, even if it's light, you want to be in correct alignment and you want to be breathing properly. So that one's a little bit, just like, you got to be careful with it so that you don't get hurt. Other ideas are you can use a restroom on a different floor, if that makes sense for your area. You can create your own standing workstation, and because you're not used to it, you'd want to begin that 20 minutes a day. Now, having an official standing desk is not something that's allowable in the HHC hospital, so we're not going to like say, oh yeah, let's just start using standing desks, because there could be some issues with that in terms of safety and just exactly how they're built and all these things. So that's not as feasible, so I'm focusing more on taking breaks from sitting, not necessarily standing all day with the standing desk. And I mentioned with meetings, you can request a standing meeting. Okay, this is a little bit more about, so there's actually a theory that specifically sitting in a 90-degree angle, which is what we used to see as like perfect posture in a chair, like really upright, is not ideal. And that there's other ways to sit that are better on the spine and the alignment, and that sitting upright in a 90-degree right angle is going to cause more shoulder, neck, and back tension, more rounding of the lower back that I showed before, fluid loss in the spinal discs, and decrease of circulation in the lower extremities, which can lead to varicose veins, cellulite, bloated feet, fatigue, and risk of blood clotting. And during the first seminar that I gave in February, somebody did mention, deep vein thrombosis and the importance of getting up and increasing circulation. This is just another picture here showing that compression and flattening of the spine that happens when you sit in a 90-degree angle. And what I'm going to show you now is this research about these 135-degree angle seats, which again is not necessarily something feasible, but it's interesting just to think about how sitting at this 135-degree angle maintains that proper curve in your spine. Another thing to think about is the psoas muscle, which inserts on your spine, and I believe, your greater trochanter, right? Sorry, greater trochanter, your thigh muscle. So, thigh bone, sorry. Basically, this psoas muscle is going to be flexing constantly when you're sitting, so it's going to be really, really tight. So that's another aspect of why it's important to lengthen and extend in the spine and stand and not maintain this seated position. Sometimes we might even see kids in school tilt their desks, so that's relieving some of the pressure in their back. This is a drawing that's just, again, emphasizing this, the decreasing disc pressure, and it has this sort of angle where the hips are above the knees. There's a chair that somebody invented. You can see the internet website there, and again, it's slanted so that it doesn't have pressure. You can sit on a Pilates ball or like this Gaim ball. They make desks that have it. The issues with that is that if you haven't done it before, you're going to get tired pretty quickly, and you can over fatigue your muscles and actually get hurt. So it's not something you want to like do 8 hours a day. If you did try it, you should start like 5 to 10 minutes a day in the beginning and just see how you feel, because it's not a perfect solution necessarily. Okay, so when you sit at this 135-degree slant or use a Pilates ball, you're going to maintain that hollow in your low back and keep the proper curve. You're going to improve circulation, reduce muscle tension, and improve mobility for reaching for things, and you can adapt it for standing height. Okay, so another thing that you can do if you don't necessarily have a desk that's like slanted 35 degrees is you can sit on the edge of your chair to kind of prop up your spine a little bit. And you can also use a cushion that slopes downward in that angle where the back of it is higher up, and that will allow you to create more room and a proper alignment for the spinal vertebrae. So another thing is using a lumbar support, which just basically makes sure that at least when you're sitting, you're not like curving into a C curve, and you're maintaining the hollow in your lower back. And that's there. And you can see how this is helping, again, the curve, because if without the lumbar support, you're getting this C curve, and the lumbar support allows you to maintain that lordosis, the concave curve in your lower back. Treadmill desks, this is something that like corporate places have, and we're not going to have it, but it just shows you that there are trends now from a few years ago and beyond that are upcoming for just increasing standing in the workplace. And even here, they're burning calories while they're working. And then this side standing desk idea that I mentioned that we can't necessarily practically do here, but just to think about how, you know, we don't have to work sitting. It kind of just seems like it's like a necessary reality, and we don't really think about like what it does to our body. So that's the bibliography, yeah. And now we're just going to take a few minutes to stretch, yeah. So just light stretching, like I mentioned before, you don't want to do anything extreme because you've been sitting, you're not warmed up. So, put this down. So you can just start by rolling your shoulders, loosening up that way. Just make sure that you have enough space so that you're not like right next to somebody. And also have your feet planted hip width apart. Yeah, with a slight bend in the knee so you're not locking your knees. So we're just going to roll the shoulders to the back, and then we can roll them to the front. And a lot of this stuff, it's not like I'm inventing any new things. It's just kind of like things that you can do that are simple and quick. Okay, now we can do some neck rolls. So, but before the neck rolls, I want to look from side to side. I'm just going to look to one side, and back to center, and then to the opposite side. The other thing that's essential in stretching is breathing, which I did not mention yet, but this time incorporate the breath. So you can inhale while you're looking straight ahead, and as you exhale, you can look to the side. And then inhale, return to center, exhale, turn your neck to the other side, and inhale back to center. So now let's do the neck rolls. So just inhale, and then exhale, half circle to one side. Don't go all the way to the back because you can hurt yourself that way. Inhale and exhale to the other side. Just do 2 more. And then inhale your head back to center. And the other thing we did before, just a side stretch, so you can inhale your arms up again. And then exhale, bending over to one side. Keeping your feet firmly planted on the ground, and then you're going to inhale up straight and exhale to the other side. Also notice if your shoulders are elevating at all, you know, try to not let them hunch up. Inhale back straight. Now put your hands on your hips, and you can do a little bit spine twist. Spine twists are good for digestion, and you know, probably loosening up the spine, obviously. So we're going to inhale straight and exhale just slightly, starting at your lower back, your waist level. You're going to twist to the other side. And then as you inhale, you're going to come back to center. So the order of the twist is always low back, mid back, upper back, or if you want to think of it from the front, it's waist, rib cage, and then like collarbone area. That's how you go. So you're going to twist in your waist, your mid back, and then your neck. And as you return, inhaling, you're going to let your neck lead, and it goes to the ribs, and then the waist is the last return. So yeah, we can do one more of those. So exhale, opening, twisting. Inhale, center. Again, maintain your knees with a slight bend. Don't let them lock. And then exhale to the opposite side, starting at the waist. And inhale, beginning with the waist to the rib cage, back to center. Okay, great. So those are some things that you can do at work. And I wanted to also ask if anybody has any other ideas, or like what your workstation looks like and things like that, like what's realistic. Like I'm in my own room, so I can shut my door and sometimes, you know, and know that I'll have like 5 minutes of uninterrupted things. Do you feel that way? That you can like fit these kinds of things into your day? Yeah? And then walking around, right. So like there's walking, and then there's like some stretching things, and there's tons of other ways that you can do many like stress, tension relieving. Like those were just some ideas. Does anybody else have any other ideas for like standing, incorporating more standing into the day and less sitting?
Just have to make a point of getting up and walking around.
Right. That's what it seemed to say too, that it, like setting an alarm or having some sort of like ritual routine, because it's not.
Nurses are on their feet all the time.
Right. I'll have to do like a different thing for them, like how to sit and
So
relax.
when I do a meeting, I want them to sit, and I usually stand.
Oh, okay. But yeah, it's
They're
I
always on
mean,
their feet.
you can do anything to an extreme. So I wouldn't, for people that are on their feet all day, I wouldn't be like, are you taking a standing breaks? Because they're probably standing a ton. And yeah, and hopefully this will help if like people have any chronic neck issues or back issues or even knee issues. The stretching won't help the knees, but the reduction of sitting could potentially help if like you have any knee problems. Sometimes sitting exacerbates that. So that's kind of another thing, is that we don't have to feel like the pain has to be increased because we're sitting all day. We can find ways to alleviate the workday so it's not as painful or intense on our body. Any questions?
That back support one.
Yeah.
Where can you get that? You can get that at any particular place?
I don't know particular places. I'd probably just check out like Amazon or maybe like some Office Depot, Staples kind of store. Interesting thing with those, I like using like a pillow more, not the ones that are made with the mesh, because like the mesh one, it's not as specific to my own body, and I don't necessarily feel that comfortable with it. So I use a pillow, or if I had like some towels, just like makeshift, I'll just roll them up and put them behind, so I just feel like I have that support. Yeah, because I don't think the mesh ones are necessarily that individualized, so I don't personally like those ones, but they could work. Ah, good. Bebes and beyond. That's good. Okay, so there's some sheets here that you can take, but again, if the mesh works, it works. I just remember for me, it didn't, but you could try it. You like it? It's good for you?
I don't know that it's better than like what you're saying is probably more accurate, but I saw it and it was easy and I got it.
Yeah, and plus it's very, I think it's individual choice.